Well, I think as you're watching the dog days of February right now, you see that there are a lot of teams vying for position in the ACC, vying for an NCAA berth, and certainly there are a lot of teams playing great basketball. And Miami's playing outstanding basketball right now. Syracuse is playing outstanding basketball. Wake Forest on any given night could beat anyone. Duke's playing terrific. So there are a lot of teams, top to bottom, that are vying for spots right now. Great game between Clemson and Syracuse. For Syracuse was a great game the other night, making a shot at the buzzer, looking like Clemson had the game won, and Syracuse made a shot at the buzzer. So should be a very exciting game. Miami presents a lot of problems in transition with their three-point shooting, their defense. They play outstanding defense. So it should be another exciting home game, as most ACC games are.
Do you see your team being still in position to challenge for a number one seed? How do you look at that?
You know, the last time I mentioned it was when we played Virginia. That was the first time I mentioned it was when we played Virginia, because we were ranked in the top four. So obviously, we're not going to be ranked in the top four next week, so probably won't mention it until it happens again.
But I mean, do you think it's not out of question?
I don't. I think it's possible. I don't not necessarily think it's probable because of the type of schedule we're going to play. You know, we're at Syracuse, at North Carolina, at Wake Forest. Who's the other at? Is that it? That's it. Yep. It's almost over.
Having that, obviously you've got Miami coming up, but having that stretch where you're playing Syracuse twice in 2 weeks and going to Carolina, what is that going to do to get your team ready for the postseason run, both the ACC and the NCAA?
Well, I think playing Wichita State, Baylor, Kentucky, Indiana, when Indiana was healthy, Purdue, I think that got us ready early on. And I think, you know, Duke and Carolina and teams like that, I think that the competitions start to finish makes you stronger. We've battled through a lot of injuries right now, and we're starting to get healthy. Tony Hicks will probably come back earlier than expected. Quentin Snyder probably was a little later than expected, but that's because we wanted to get him in really good shape before he hurt another part of his anatomy.
What are your plans for playing?
He'll play. He's practiced now. This will be the third day he's practiced, but we made sure he was in really good shape before we let him practice. Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry. He's just a few pounds overweight right now, but, you know, just a couple.
You mentioned at some point, or maybe a couple times, that he would regain his starting spot. Is this immediate? I mean, if he's going to play tomorrow?
He'll play tomorrow. He probably won't start, but I'm not sure about that. He could start. I want to see how he looks today. But, you know, a lot of people say we played better basketball percentage-wise with Q out. You know, we didn't play better basketball because we couldn't have beaten Indiana, Wichita State, Kentucky without Q. So we shot a better percentage. I think what happened is that the offense flows really well when David Levitch is on the floor because he makes good passes. The defense gets killed when he's on the floor. So it's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Because and we got to get David playing better defense because he's a major asset on offense. He really is. Jalen got 2 dunks. Another guy got an easy layup. He's a big asset, but he gives up too many straight line drives. He fouls too much, and you can't foul Virginia like that. But the reason we played better basketball wasn't people say, well, Donovan played the point. Donovan runs just as many pick and rolls and takes just as many shots playing the other guard because we played 2 points. Donovan just decided 3 weeks ago to play like a star. Had nothing to do with Quentin's absence because Quentin passes the ball a lot.
You mentioned Hicks. What are you counting on?
I would say that by the Virginia Tech game, he'll be ready to play.
What goes into a decision to play like a star?
Well, I think that you run a lot of offenses to your better players, a lot of plays to your better players. And Donovan and Deng both, you know, they miss a couple of shots, and then they try to force the drive, and then they look bad. They're wide open. They don't take the shot because they lose their confidence, and stars don't lose their confidence. So I think it's more of a confidence thing. You know, if you look at NBA basketball players, you know, you never see Curry or Durant or Westbrook lose their confidence. And at the collegiate level, then, you know, Donovan's not the caliber players love those guys, but at the collegiate level, he's one of the stars in our game. At least I think so.
Mango and Dan were in here earlier, we had a apology. Can you update us on their status for now?
Well, they're going to play. You know, they both realize how much they hurt the basketball team. They understood what we were fighting for. They both feel awfully down about letting the team down. And, you know, like I told them, I said, the Christian in me has forgiven them. The coach in me has not. And the coach in me is, they're going to pay a huge price moving forward. Not in the basketball court, but as far as discipline is concerned. They will get what any player would get. Now, we haven't had a lot of this, to tell you the truth. I've been here 16 years, and I've had 3 of these incidents. One was Chris Jones that ended his career. But see, bad things happen when you do things like that. You know, look what happened with Chris Jones. And, you know, it's only happened 3 times in 16 years. And Mango's twice. So Mango is someone that, he's a great guy, by the way. And Dan Adele is a great guy. But Mango likes to party. He's 24 years old. He likes to party. And it wasn't like they were 25, 30 minutes late. I said this in a joking way. You know, Paul Horning and Max McGee would be very proud of both of those guys.
Thanks for mentioning Dracula.
What do you mean?
Is it a daily thing? Is it like 2 days before the game?
It's mostly, yeah, we've had more curfews this year than any other period. Probably more curfews this year in 5 years combined. Just because we've got to make sure that nothing happens in this program right now. You know, it's, we're on guard. I do say I totally trust this basketball team implicitly. I really do. It's not them I'm worried about. When you're out late, it's not the guys on our basketball team. I'm worried about the guys who are out late around them. So we're just very concerned about that. You know, you see all the incidents that are going on in life right now, never mind basketball, and it's dangerous out there. It really is a dangerous society today. Not only everybody just keeps remarking about Chicago, it's very dangerous in Louisville, you know, relatively speaking to the population.
This is a little bit off topic. One of the things that the NLRB has made an issue of is the amount of time coaches control players, curfews, scheduling, that sort of thing. Is there a line that you have to be careful not to cross that would be excessive?
I don't really care what they think. And I don't say that in any arrogant way. I don't care. I'm going to do what's right for our basketball players' safety. I'm going to do what's right for them as athletes. I'm going to do what's right. You know, we have, believe it or not, Tim, we probably have less rules than most programs. You know, we have do the right things, treat women with great respect, always be early, always be on time. So we don't have a lot of rules. And we tell our players, go out, have good, clean fun, enjoy themselves. But we've got to be really, really careful right now with what's going on out there. And I'm just concerned. I represent their parents. I'm concerned with their safety. I'm concerned with them as athletes because, you know, it's really, really important as an athlete playing the style of play we have that I'm always of the opinion that after 12 o'clock at night, nothing good's happening out there. It may be a little old-fashioned, but that's the way I am. Absolutely not. I was joking on my TV show that John Calipari had to come up with that idea because he's the best at that. He's the most unique guy with everybody copies him, you know, with Pro Day and everything else. And I thought that he came up with that marketing tool because it's a brilliant idea to get ready for March Madness. It gets a lot of attention towards it, and it's a great idea and for their committee to. But it means nothing in terms of. I think they're just trying to develop interest in March, but it means nothing because it could totally change. You know, if we would have beat Virginia, we would probably be a 1 seed going on the air, but we're not now. I'm sure we'll be in there. When is this thing happening?
11.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay. So I'm sure we'll be in it somewhere. You know, with our strength of schedule, I think we're 4 in the RPI or 3, 4, and you know, top 7, 8 in schedule. Depends on who you play. You know, on one game. But what do we schedule was, Kenny? 7. So yeah. So we're up there on both. So.
You'll find it interesting, won't you? I mean, and to look at it.
I won't watch it, but I'll see it the next day. Kenny is like a crackerjack with all that information. He gets it to me right away.
Coach, you talked about Miami with three. I think they only have 4 guys that have made threes, but all of them made like 30, 25, or 30 or more. So they really shoot it.
They shoot it in, like the other, NC State had the lead all of a sudden, and the game just changed in a minute or two span just because of the way they shoot threes. I was watching my son play and almost having a heart failure they had like a 13-point lead, and Iowa came down and boom, 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 and the game turned, and Iowa had the lead. And that's what the three-point shot does sometimes, not only in transition, but in quick shots. And they will take them. And we know Reed, we've seen that music before, listened to that music before. And, they've got guys that can shoot it at 4 positions at times, and we've got to be ready for it. We've had great home crowds here, great home crowds. Very, I've been here, how long has the Yum Center been open? 7th year. In 7 years, this has probably been the most vocal crowds we've had. Maybe it's the conference, maybe it's the competition.
Is your team a good three-point defense team, do you think?
I think we've been best in the nation for a while, and then best in the ACC. Is that a loaded question?
No,
No.
I just don't know if you consider maybe this.
I don't think we're a good defensive team, but we're a good three-point defensive team. I don't think we're a good defensive team.
What makes this team good?
I think they pay attention to the three-point line and defending it. I think that's been one of us. I think every year since we've been in major conferences, we've been one of the better defensive teams guarding the three. Sometimes that's why you get beat more in straight line drives, because you take it away.
Coach Calipari a few minutes ago, Tuesday night, he said he wanted to hold a 3-hour practice and people were puking. Is that what Mango and Daniel been facing?
No, theirs hurts even more. It's not a physical punishment. It's, what's the more, in your industry, what's the most valuable piece of technology that you have in your industry? What's yours?
I don't know, computer, you write on a computer.
I would say most people say computer, cell phone, right? Yeah, they don't have any of those. That's torture.
That's it, it's torture.
Coach, you said all the season, you say you want to hope to be a good team by March.
Yeah.
We're getting there. What's the progress on?
The strength of this basketball team, I know it's coming off 2 guys breaking curfew, but both of those guys are tremendous young men. They really are. I mean, we all know, every one of us here, there won't be a stone thrown by any of us in terms of something like that happening. That being said, we're all disappointed, we're all let down, but nobody's sorrier than them. The character of this basketball team is what makes it really good. They try so hard all the time. They have such a great desire to win. So that's why, yes, I think we could be, but we are still a very average to good defensive basketball team. We rebounded very poorly in that game against Virginia. I mean, but you got to give Virginia credit. When do you ever see Jalen Johnson not have a rebound in 25 minutes of play? Anas Mahmoud, 1 rebound in the game. I mean, that's Virginia, because now I will say this. We usually get statistically, so if I have a chance to get 15 offensive rebounds, we chart that. So generally, Mango goes 80% of the time, Jalen goes 80% of the time, the other guys go between 70 and 80. They were at 44% in that game. That tells me they were tired in that game. So, that's something I don't think that'll happen again now that we have a full bench. So I think we can be a good basketball team because we've played a great schedule, the best schedule we've played here. But it's all about, I think, for us coming March, it's about matchups, who we play. We don't seem to play well with teams that really make us take our time. And I think playing Virginia and playing Old Dominion will really prepare us for that. Wichita State, that I think it's really going to help us because we've been in a fight in those games.
So you mentioned the character of the team. I was wondering about, the fatigue of a long season. You have played good teams from the very
Yeah.
start.
I think I would worry more about mental fatigue than physical fatigue because Q's now had 2 weeks off. Tony will have 3 weeks off. Mango and Deng had a short vacation. You know, guys have been, I think we're going to be a very well-rested team, I really do.
Do you, having looked back now that you talked a lot about the schedule, does that make you want to do it again in the future? Because it was-
Yes, yes, because, like next year, I think we're going to have one of the stronger teams I've had since I've been at Louisville. Deep, talented, size, quickness. We're going to be much better shooting the ball. But this year I gambled, and it could have been the worst move of all time. I could have knocked us out of the tournament very easily with a young, inexperienced team. And fortunately, it didn't happen. You know, we played Indiana when they were at full strength. We played Kentucky when they were playing great. And I still think Indiana, I don't know if they can come back, but Kentucky's going to, come tournament time, they'll be there. Duke, come tournament time, will be there. You know, those teams are built physically to be great come March. You know, Indiana's struggling right now because they've had massive injuries.
As far as the conference goes, with North Carolina, Florida State up at the top, I know Louisville was in some of the great Big East seasons in the last decade. Is this up there? Is this ACC conference up there with some of those Big East conferences?
Well, I honestly don't believe we'll get 11 bids, because we keep beating up on each other so much. But a lot of teams play a tough schedule, so they have some losses outside of that. Some of the Big East teams didn't play as tough a schedule, and there was a bottom to the Big East. There's no bottom to the ACC. We thought there was going to be a bottom, but there is not a bottom. You know, they thought that Georgia Tech and BC would be, but they're not. They play very competitive. They beat people. So there's no bottom. So I think the ACC, I'm really looking forward to the tournament in the Barclays Center, because not only because it's in New York, but because it's going to be really exciting.
One more, anybody?
We talked last week about, you know, this sort of Thursday, Saturday, or Saturday, Monday. What do you, obviously aside from Mango and May, what did you guys?
It doesn't, you know, it doesn't bother me. I actually like it because it prepares you for the NCAA tournament with the one-day prep. I actually like it. You know, and it doesn't bother me. It was tough because we had a whole game plan. We went through 2.5 years of film work, and we had a whole game plan set for Virginia, and we practiced it for about 30 minutes a game, you know, going into, and then we had to change. We didn't have to change the offensive things we were going to do, but we had to change the whole defensive concept that we planned for. That was the only disappointing thing in terms of that. The guys played brilliantly in the first half, did a lot of great things, and I was excited to see the way David and even Ryan, the way he played on the ball defense. They were all didn't play as well off the ball defense, but guys, VJ King, it was great to see him step up like that. Yeah, he will start in this game. VJ will start in this game. I don't know about Quentin, but VJ will start.
That helped him to get this started.
Well, I think it like Donovan, he realizes now we're missing one of our stars. When I say star, I don't mean that they're above anybody. They're going to probably take more shots. The defense is going to pay attention to them more. And he just stepped into Deng's role. He didn't step into VJ's role. You know, a freshman who's just trying to feel his way. He stepped into a starring role, and he'll do the same thing tomorrow.
Thoughts on Charles Oakley?
You know, I coached Oak. I love Oak. We were very tight when I coached the Knicks. Very disappointed to see it because I love him so much. I don't know what the difficulty is there with the owner and him, but I hope they get it worked out because Charles was a valuable asset for us winning the Atlantic Division Championship, turning around the Knicks in terms of, you know, when I was there, we were 40% capacity. When we left, we were 100% capacity. You know, we won 52 games, won the Atlantic Division Championship, and he was a big part of that toughness. And you know, I hated to see what happened the other night because I truly loved the guy. I understood when I coached him what he was all about, and he was all Nick inside and out. So I hope the owner and him get together and you know, air out their differences and bring him back to the Nick organization again. Thanks.
Thank you.